Okay, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance has only been in Congress for about a year and a half, but now he's competing to hold the second highest seat in the United States government. CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion is joining us now from Capitol Hill. Nikole, I guess the question is, how are his fellow lawmakers reacting to news of J.D. Vance being selected as former President Trump's running mate?
Well, as you can imagine, particularly among congressional Republicans, there is a sense of excitement and pride, being that this is one of their own. We have seen a range of reaction from Speaker Johnson on down to, for instance, House Republican Conference Chair Elise Stefanik, who called J.D. Vance a strong choice and even was at one point in consideration for the vice presidential slot. There are others here in the Senate, like Senator Lindsey Graham, who have praised J.D. Vance for kind of his humble upbringings, his rags to riches story, but celebrating that as someone who, in his view, is a stellar choice, to use Graham's words. So there is, for the most part, even though J.D. Vance is a relative newcomer to the Senate, a sense, again, of excitement and, anticipation for what he brings to the Trump ticket.
So the other question I have, Nikole, is there are some senators who are well-liked, not only by members of their own party, but also members across the aisle. They may not agree on policy, they may not agree on the direction of the country, but they get along. Is he one of those characters?
Well, I think, again, he's still relatively new, so he doesn't necessarily have those long-forged relationships, right? But there have been some instances where he has worked across the aisle, particularly on this issue of rail safety, where he worked across the aisle with Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown, as well as Pennsylvania Senators John Fetterman and Bob Casey, all Democrats, I might add. And obviously, J.D. Vance was very instrumental in helping to bring the president to East Palestine in the wake of that train derailment, which is kind of what sparked some of that legislation. So there are those times where he has been somebody who works across the aisle, but at the same time, as we know, he has been a very ardent defender of the president, kind of towing the party line, particularly in terms of, those MAGA principles, America First ideals. So, depending on the issue, it can at times go both ways.
And the other question, of course, that a lot of people will have is, look, we know that J.D. Vance, that election to the United States Senate was a tough one. He got over the finish line because former President Donald Trump endorsed him and actually came out and supported him. As you know, Nikole, you reported how much money was spent, specifically how much money Mitch McConnell allocated to winning that seat that J.D. Vance now holds. What happens now? Is that seat up for grabs? Or, Ohio's relatively red, has been at least national in terms of national elections. But what are you hearing?
Well, I think it's too early to say. I think people are still digesting the news. I was actually outside of J.D. Vance's office yesterday here on Capitol Hill just before the news was announced, and I saw his staffers kind of nervously looking at their phones. All of a sudden, they shut the door, and then you heard these cheers erupt once the president put out that Truth Social post. But look, certainly, as is always the case, if, the former president and Ohio Senator J.D. Vance are successful as a ticket and go on to win the presidency and the vice presidency, then it does certainly raise questions about what happens to that Senate seat. Obviously, the governor would have to appoint someone temporarily to the seat, and there are certainly a number of lawmakers potentially who may jockey for that position, but probably too premature yet, since we're still 4 months out from the election.
Well, Killian, for us, always bringing us the news that we need. Thank you, Nikole. Appreciate it.
You bet.